Hello everyone, my name is Greta. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another video where we are going to be talking all about macros. I'm going to give you some pros and some cons when it comes to counting your macros, and in the end you will hopefully be able to make a decision on if it is right for you. So let's get into it. The first positive thing that can come from counting your macros is the accountability factor that comes along with it. Oftentimes I hear a lot of people unable to hit their goals, whether it is trying to gain weight, lose weight, increase their muscle mass. I hear a lot of times that they're struggling with it and they can't quite figure out why. Well, this is where macros come in. It is something that holds you completely accountable, and it dives in a little bit further than you would with just counting calories, and it helps reach your goals that much faster. So, maybe you are trying to lose weight and maybe you can't quite figure out why you're not able to lose that 1 pound a week. And by counting your macros, you basically get a in-depth look at exactly what you're eating on a day-to-day basis, and you try to hit those numbers, and odds are you will hit your goals a lot faster versus just kind of guessing on like what you should and shouldn't eat, and if this, how many calories have you eaten during the entire day. With that being said, a negative of counting macros is that though it gives you that accountability factor and it helps you give a little insight of how much food you're eating, it does not put into consideration the quality of food you are eating. So, I could be eating Pop-Tarts and pasta and bread every single day of the week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I might still hit my macros, but you know what? I'm not going to be feeling my best. I'm definitely not going to be fueling my body the best way that I could. I'm not getting any sort of nutrition into my diet, all right? So, that is a very important thing. I think a lot of people, when they start counting macros, they might actually start eating a lot of junk food, even if it's food that they might have kind of restricted themselves from because, they're like, oh, well, I can eat this because it fits my numbers. Absolutely. You can absolutely have your chocolate and pizza and, whatever you have been missing, but it's all about the balance, that you should definitely put in some fruits and veggies in your diet and don't just solely rely on whatever fits in those numbers, because those numbers do not reflect the nutritional density of the food that you are eating. Now, the second positive thing that has come from counting macros and my journey, it provides you with this eye-opening experience, honestly, of what might actually be lacking in your diet specifically. So this is why I love macro counting so much more than calorie counting, because when I was calorie counting, I was basically eating like pure carbs, and I had no idea what macros even were. And once I started really diving deep, I actually realized like, hey, you know what? You're actually not getting enough protein in your diet. You are actually not getting enough fats in your diet. You are actually eating pure carbs every single day. So it really helps break it down in a way that you really see what is missing in your diet in terms of your fats, protein, and carbs. I often find that it is very difficult to hit your protein. It can be, especially for me. I do not eat meat. I do eat fish, but I am somebody that just genuinely, if given the choice, will gravitate towards the carbs and the fats, and I will not really gear towards, eating protein sources. Hence why it comes into the accountability factor, but it also helped me really see what I was lacking in my diet. And in my case, I am currently building muscle, and you can't really build muscle when you're only eating like 10 grams of protein a day. Doesn't work that way. A con that comes along with this is that it takes time and it takes effort, especially in the beginning, especially if you have absolutely no experience in the world of like even counting calories. It takes time to get used to this, to make it a habit, but I feel like once you have it down, it can definitely become easier. But again, a lot of people, I feel like, don't stick to it because the thought of having to weigh your food every single day seems very taxing. So in the end, it's really about how much effort do you want to put into it. I feel like that's what it comes down to. And of course, there's many different ways to approach hitting your goals. But macro counting definitely does take time and effort. I personally use MyFitnessPal. It makes it easier because a lot of the foods that I eat are actually already kind of put in there. It's easy to find your fruit, all that stuff. The next positive, it will teach you what a serving size is. Now, this is not to say that when you are eating something, you need to stick to to one serving size of that particular food. That is by no means what I am saying. Don't get me wrong. I just ate 2 servings of pasta. What I am saying, however, is oftentimes I feel like there is a lack of awareness of what a serving size actually is. If you go to the Cheesecake Factory, order a plate of pasta, they are by no means serving you 1 serving of pasta, okay? Usually it literally looks like they took the box of Barilla pasta, dumped it in a pot, and they just served it up for you. It is a lot of food. What counting macros has taught me is just awareness of how much I am eating in a good way. It really, because it forces you to really read the labels of what you're buying. Even in terms of like fruit, it really forces you to see like, oh, this is actually a serving size of fruit, you know? And with that being said, a con of it is it can honestly lead to disordered behaviors when it comes to food. Being somebody that has a background in eating disorders, I can say without a doubt calorie counting was damaging for me at one point in my life. So it can definitely lead to an obsessive behavior of it. It can definitely lead to somebody thinking that they cannot eat anything if they're unable to track it. So you know yourself, if you have a habit, if you already have thoughts of like disordered eating, this might not be for you, honestly. I would seek professional help if that is the case. Macro counting does not fix your relationship with food. If anything, it might make it worse. It might make it more obsessive. A positive that has come, my last positive that has come from counting macros, is that it honestly opened up my world of food. I had been depriving myself for so long and really not allowing myself to eat the foods that I genuinely wanted to eat because I had this fear that if I ate this food then I wouldn't be able to reach my goal, so I just wouldn't eat it. When I started counting macros, I actually realized like how much food I could actually eat. And because I could fit something that I had really been craving into, like, say it's like pasta. Like before, I would think that pasta is like this item that's off the menu. You can't have it because it's too high in carbs. But I realized, like, hey, you know what? I can eat over 300 grams of carbs and I can be thriving. So once I started seeing that, and once I started seeing like, oh, I can actually fit all of this food and have a very balanced diet and still eat all the foods I love, it really opened up my world of what foods I could have. And I no longer felt that feeling of like being very, very deprived and very restrictive over the foods that I could eat or couldn't eat for this matter. And the last con I would say is that if you go about it in a very, very strict way, like unless you are competing for like a bikini show or whatever, there is no reason for you to be extra strict on this. But if you do approach it in that way, it can have the opposite effect and it can actually make you feel deprived because you would not feel comfortable going to social situations because you don't know what the food that's going to be there, and like you feel like you have to go around with your scale and weigh everything. And while of course there's certain situations that you can definitely do that, like say if you're just like going to a family friend's house or something, and you can definitely do that and they'll understand. But if you're going to like a holiday party, if you're going to somebody's birthday dinner, there really shouldn't be a need to have your scale, but this is something that can happen. And sometimes I've heard of people like missing out on events because they feel like if they can't count their macros, they won't be able to properly hit their goals. So again, this kind of goes back to possibly causing disordered behaviors when it comes to food. So that is it. That is my list of the pros and cons of counting macros. Now, I personally count macros. I've been doing it for quite some time. And it's something that just at this point is very easy for me. I don't even think about it. I don't second guess it. It's not that big of a deal. It is not for everyone. Honestly, it really is not. And you know what? To me personally, this is not something that I plan on doing long term. This is something that has opened my eyes to, like I said, serving sizes and the foods that I can have and how much I can actually eat. But in the long run, this is not something that I plan on doing for the rest of my life, because I don't plan on weighing my food out for the rest of my life. I'm just enjoying it now. So if you have any questions about anything that I said, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. If you have not subscribed to my channel, hit the big red button. I upload new videos every single week. And I will see you next time. Bye.